Hello everybody, how you doing today? So 2019 coming to an end, a lot of people are looking back on the last decade, talking about music, movies, video games, TV shows, and technology, everything that's changed in the last 10 years, and a lot has changed. I thought it'd be fun to take a look at some of the cartoons that have come out over the last decade. I have about 19 here, and that's not even close to how many cartoons we've gotten in the last decade. I went through a list from 2010 to 2019, and there are so many shows I haven't even heard of, shows that I have heard of and just haven't had the chance to watch yet, even though for some of them I'd really like to get to. Shows that I didn't even know came out, even though I had heard of them. Shows that I had seen and completely forgot even existed. So it's given me some great ideas for some shows to go back and visit. I thought this would be a fun way to talk about some shows that people loved, people hated, people felt left an impact, or just shows that I personally enjoyed from the last decade. Again, this isn't a full list of all the shows, and this is just my opinion, so if you disagree with it, feel free to let me know what you thought down in the description below. And yes, I know I missed this whole tier list trend, but I thought it'd be a good way to help me arrange these and kind of get my thoughts in order, since I'm not doing this without a script, and hopefully it doesn't turn out like hot garbage. So starting out, Adventure Time's going right up to the top here. Adventure Time is a show that has impacted so many cartoons that are in production, and I assume so many shows that will be in production. So many modern cartoons have been influenced by it, have people working on it that worked on Adventure Time, so it's hard to put it in any category other than impactful. I am so excited for Adventure Time Distant Lands, the 4-hour-long specials that are going to be premiering on HBO Max. Like, I'm considering getting HBO Max just to check them out, or I'll just watch them on a streaming site. Who knows? Let's see. I have only seen a few episodes of Teen Titans Go, and I put it on here just to put it in hot garbage, but what I've seen of the show, and, you know, I don't think the hate train is really worth it anymore. It's meh. It's below average, but it's not the worst of the worst. It's got some decent animation. A couple jokes I've seen were kind of funny. Yes, I love the original Teen Titans, and I don't like some of the choices the writers have made making fun of the original fan base, but I'm not mad at it anymore, and I think it's not for me. Ooh, let's see. Ooh. Gumball is a show that I came to really late on. I didn't start watching Gumball until probably a year ago, and when I did finally understand what all the hype was about, I watched as much of it as I could. It is funny. It's got some of the greatest references and fourth wall breaks I've ever seen, and it covers a lot of media in its references. It's not just from one source over and over. You get blockbuster movies, you get anime, you get JRPGs. It's awesome. It's a great show. If you haven't checked it out, it's got a lot of jokes. It's got a lot of great characters. Just put it on and let a few episodes play. They're not long, and hey, might get you a laugh. Alright, let's see what's next. Ooh, this is tough. The Dragon Prince. I did hear the new season came out recently. I could be wrong, but somebody I think told me that. And I really like The Dragon Prince. I want to see where it goes. I want to put it in above average. Okay, hear me out. I do not think The Dragon Prince is bad. I think it's really good. I liked a lot of what I saw. But for me, the animation still took a lot of getting used to, and even though by the end of the first season, I felt like I was okay watching it, I definitely think the animation brings it just a little bit down in my mind. I know we're not great at the whole CG animation thing. I know that it's not the easiest type of animation to do, but it's just some of the movements still really unnatural for me. I love the show, and I am going to watch the new season if it did come out, and I'm remembering that correctly. So, don't hate me. I like the show. I do. I'm just not the biggest fan of its animation style. Okay. These are going to both go in average. Okay. This is, again, just my opinion, so I'm not going to feel bad about this. I loved watching the original Ben 10 growing up. I watched up through Alien Force and Ultimate Alien, and then I stopped. I know there's more series, and I have seen none of them. Putting Ultimate Alien on here was just a way for me to get Ben 10 on this list, because it was a really good part of my childhood, and I think it's a very fun show. Do I think it's a super challenging show, one with deep storylines and characters? Most of the time, no, but it's definitely something that has lasted because it's a good concept. It's a good idea. There's a reason there's been so many remakes of it. People like it. Children like it. Toy companies really like it. I really liked it. I thought Ben 10 was a great series, and a series that was tangentially related. A series that was related. Generator Rex is a series that is connected to Ben 10 in a way, because they did have a crossover movie, but I definitely think Generator Rex is a show that needs a little bit more attention. I'm sure there are people who really love this show. I haven't gone out specifically searching for a fan base for it, but nothing Generator Rex related has never really come across my attention. So maybe there's a loving fan base for it, but a few years ago when I was in college, I sat down and watched through, I'd say, over half the series, and I ended up just getting really busy with finals, and I'd really love to go back to it, but there was a lot of effort put into the show that I was really surprised about. A lot of scenes specifically that surprised me because they were quiet, and that was very interesting to me. Okay, let's see. Let's just put this up here. Guys, if you guys have seen my Gravity Falls video, then you know why I'm putting this up here. It's fantastic. I love this show. It's got a great mystery, memorable characters, one of the greatest villains in animated history. Originally, when I sat down to do this, I wanted to do an animated villain tier list from the last decade, but there's only a handful or so of ones that I really felt stuck out enough to deserve to be on a tier list, and I didn't want to just have a super top-heavy tier list, even though I'm pretty sure that's how this one's going to end up anyways. I really just wanted to make a list that had Bill Cipher and Dr. Doofenshmirtz as villains on it, because both of them are amazing, iconic villains for very different reasons in terms of television animation. Okay, let's see. So ScoobyDoo Mystery Incorporated is another one I watched. I think about a year ago I went back and watched it. I like it a lot. Ooh, this is tough. Okay. It's above average. It took a very formulaic show. Scooby-Doo has always had a very cut and dry formula, and I love Scooby-Doo. I've always loved Scooby-Doo. Ever since I was a kid, I've loved Scooby-Doo. I love Zombie Island. I love The Witch's Ghost. I love all the direct to VHS movies. Children at home, ask your parents what a VHS is. Haha, I'm old. I made a joke. I've always loved Scooby-Doo. I've watched it ever since I was a kid, so seeing new takes on it in the last few years, some are great, some are meh, some are I could live without. This is one that took it in a very strange direction, and I'm not going to give anything away about it. If you want to know why I think it's above average, just sit down and watch the show. I can't explain it to you because there's a mystery. It's Mystery Incorporated. There's something it's building to, and what it builds to is absolutely insane. Alright, let's see now. Castlevania is a series that came out on Netflix, I believe, and I'm going to put it in average. I like it. I do. I love it a lot. It had some really great action scenes. I've never actually played the Castlevania games. I've had friends who've played them. They've seemed very interesting, but I've just never sat down and done it. I really enjoyed the series. You can ask anyone. I always play the edgy characters. I'm a Reaper main in Overwatch. It's who I am. I like it. I can't help it. My favorite superhero is Batman. I just like the dark, edgy, brooding aesthetic. I understand the problem with it. I just enjoy the aesthetic. So this show fits very well into that aesthetic, but I personally felt while it had some amazing characters and some really breathtaking scenes, it just kind of felt, some characters felt like they didn't get enough development, some things felt a little off to me. That's just my opinion. I really enjoyed the show. I recommend it to people. I just think that there were some things that missed the mark, at least in my eyes. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna put Rick and Morty... If you paid attention to my previous videos, you know I haven't seen a lot of Rick and Morty. Only a handful of episodes, and I do want to sit down and watch it at some point, but it's not one that really draws my attention from what I have seen. However, I thought it was still worth a mention on here just because it has made me laugh. I think some of the concepts and things that I've seen in the show are pretty cool, and it definitely has had an impact on the last decade. For me, it hasn't been impactful, but I cannot deny that it has a spot on this list and deserves to be remembered going forward, which I'm sure even without my little channel, it will be. Okay. Fibia is a relatively new cartoon that has been... Fibia is a relatively new cartoon that has been airing on Disney. I watched it on their, I watched it on the Disney website, so I'm not sure if it's Disney or Disney XD or even what the channels are. I do not watch a lot of stuff on actual TV anymore. It's all streaming. But it was a weirdly funny show. It had a surprising amount of dark humor. And I'm not talking like blood and guts, but when you watch it, the humor definitely has a specific tone to it, and it really worked for me. There was some kind of plot building in the background, but it was really left till the end of the season, and I definitely think this could be above average show, but for right now I'm just going to put it in the middle until we get the next season to see where the show goes. I have a lot of high hopes for it. I think this is going to be a very memorable show, but I think it needs a little more time to get the ball rolling. Okay, Legend of Korra. Okay, don't hate me. I've only seen the first season. I enjoyed it. And from what I've heard from everyone, the rest of the show is a beautiful mess. It's got a lot of great, it's got a lot of the Avatar feel, but it definitely doesn't strike gold in the same way that Avatar: The Last Airbender did. And I don't want to point fingers at anyone for that. The show had a lot of problems in its airtime and when it was getting played, and changes in animation studios, yada yada yada. I will sit down and watch it, and maybe it'll move it up in my mind, but I do only have the one season and a lot of complaints to go off of. But I don't... you know what? I'm going to put it in average. I can't have it next to Teen Titans Go. It's too pretty. It's too pretty. That's the only reason it's not going there. Alright, let's get this out of the way. Steven Universe goes in impactful. Love it or hate it. I know there's people that are like both. They either think it's the most amazing show in the universe, or they think it's garbage and don't understand all the hype. I'm closer to the first camp. I love the show, I love the songs, I love the characters. I sat down and rewatched the entire show with my girlfriend, and it was even better the second time. I loved the movie, and I am so hyped for Steven Universe Futures. It's another show that I think is paving the way for a lot of representation in animation, and it's just creative, fun, and colorful. What is there to not like about creative, fun, and colorful? Speaking of creative and fun, Over the Garden Wall. It's like watching a Grimm's fairy tale. It's dark, it's atmospheric, and its villain is someone else that I wanted on the villain list. I'm not going to go into too much detail because I think Over the Garden Wall is an experience that you just need to go into. If you like dark fairy tales, please sit down and watch it. It's not a long series, but it is worth it every time I've seen it. It is beautiful, it is atmospheric, The music brings me right back to the feeling of watching the show every time I hear it. Please, please, please check it out. Alright, let's see. I bet a bunch of you are wondering, is that a show for girls that is on Nickelodeon? Yes. No. Anyone can watch Miraculous Ladybug. I'm an adult. I enjoy it. Yes, I understand its faults. It's very formulaic. It's made for a younger demographic. But I think the show has some interesting concepts, and it has enough intrigue to keep me coming back to try to figure out what's going on behind the scenes. The story that's building, the world building is interesting enough. And yes, I got sucked into the romance, and I just want the characters to live happily ever after. So yeah, I am definitely a sucker for that show, even though I know it's definitely not my age group. A couple friends and I have been following it for the last few years, and no regrets on that. I know it's not perfect, but it's definitely not the worst thing on this list. Alright, let's take a look at... Ooh. SheRa's a show I like a lot. It's very interesting because it's taking a concept that exists before and it's a reboot. There's no way around it. It's a reboot. But it's definitely doing something that not a lot of reboots I've seen have done, and that's actually adding interesting characters and events and storylines to a world that really didn't have a lot of those. I'm sure the original SheRa has its fans, and I've never watched it, so I cannot claim that I know everything there is to know about it. But I enjoy the show. It's got some really nice fight scenes. It's got some good character development. I like how the villains interact with the heroes. I like how the heroes interact with themselves. I like the problems it tackles, whether they are the ones being tackled up front or the ones that are more so left to our interpretation to see them facing. And it helps people seeing events that they may come across, like dealing with toxic people in your life, the loss of a family member, having arguments with friends, because life isn't perfect, and all of those, even in a fantasy show, are still relatable enough to take something away from. And I definitely think SheRa does that in a very creative and fun way, and I look forward to seeing the next season. I am currently caught up with it, and I've been really trying to get some of my friends to give it a chance, because I think a lot of people let the negativity when the show was first announced and all of the people who really haven't given the show a proper chance influence their decisions on it. Another show that has really been defined by its fan base is Starverse: The Force of Evil, which... I want to put this in the impactful category. I really do. I watched all of this show. I love this show, and I definitely think this show has some arcs and some episodes that do fit in the impactful category. But the show as a whole, I don't think has yet hit that point. As far as I know, the show is over, and there's always talk about shows coming back, but you really never know how much of that is just fans' wishful thinking, and I feel for the time being, for what we have with Star is all we're going to get for it. It's an amazing show. It's got creative characters, different worlds. Each season has a more and more complex threat, and I liked watching the show get more serious as it went on, but there are definitely some times where the tone or the story is a little bit... it leaves something to be desired. And I'm not gonna say that it's for everyone, but it was definitely for me, and I want to revisit this show because I think a lot of people would really enjoy it. And even though it has a very verbal fan base, I do not think it has the fan base. I don't think it has a fan base the size of Steven Universe's or Gravity Falls or Adventure Times, and I definitely think it deserves it. Infinity Train. Ooh. Infinity Train is a very new show, so it's really hard to say whether or not it and its future seasons are going to leave an impact, but for me, they definitely have. I think it's a show that tackles important issues, and if you want more of my feelings on it, just check out my video talking about Infinity Train and the impact it had on me. But I'm so excited to see the second season. The trailer dropped not too long ago for it, and it looks very interesting, so stay tuned for my thoughts on that as we move forward. And the last thing I have on here is Young Justice, which I'm gonna put in average. It's been a while since I've watched Young Justice, and I remember the first season much better than I do the second season, and I have not seen Outsiders, I'm going to admit that, but I really loved the first season. I thought it had a lot of great stuff, and the second season, from what I remember, definitely had some good episodes, but there is, and if you want to watch Young Justice, I'm gonna say a spoiler here, so be warned, there's a time skip between the first and the second season, and it just didn't sit right with me. I didn't like how thrown around everything felt. I didn't like feeling so out of the loop, and I think that what they were building up to in all these reveals didn't feel worth it for me. But there were a lot of elements of season 2 I liked as well, but it's a show that I'm going to really have to revisit before I know how my feelings are on it, so I think it's safe to say it's average. So that's all the shows I have on here, and even sitting here just looking at the screen, I could have put Has Been on here because the pilot's out. I could have put the 5th season of Samurai Jack, which has gotten a lot of criticism, but I really enjoyed. There's a lot more shows I could have talked about from this past decade, but the point I wanted to make with doing all this is it's been a great decade for animation, and I'm sure animation as an industry is just going to continue to grow in the decade to come, and I hope to be a part of it, whether it's talking about it or working to make something of my own, which I'm very far from doing at the current moment, but is a goal at some point. So I hope you enjoyed listening to my opinion, and thank you so much for watching. Hey guys, thank you a lot. Like I just said, it's great that you guys have been watching. I am so thankful for every view I get on this channel, and I'm trying my best to grow. It's hard with, again, the holiday season taking up so much time, work, all that stuff, but I love making these videos. I love doing this whole YouTube thing and getting to be creative and just putting my thoughts out there on some things I love, you know? Again, I have some projects in the works that I'm very excited for, and I cannot wait to show you guys, but I'm just going to need a little more time to get them all together. Script writing, getting people together for recordings, it's going to take a minute, but they are coming together, and hopefully I could get something out at the beginning of next month or maybe the end of this month. But please think about subscribing and liking this video. Leave me a comment on some of the cartoons you've liked the most from this past decade. Let me know your thoughts and feelings on my list. Did you agree? Do you disagree? Should I have changed the ranking of something? It doesn't matter. It's my opinion. You're wrong. But if you guys want to check me out on Twitter, I have a subreddit. You guys can help support this channel by buying some of my art on my Instagram or donating directly on Patreon. I would love for you guys to interact with me, give me some ideas for future content. And yeah, I think that's all I really got to say. So thank you again, and you all have a fantastic day.